You're listening to the Whip Appeal Show hosted by MistressCandy69 from the BDSM Alive Radio Network. Well, hello. Today is Thursday, April 13th, 2023. And you are listening live to the Whip Appeal Show hosted by yours truly. It is season 2 and episode number 8 tonight. So for the second season, I decided to do episodic numbers. This way, when, I'm talking to somebody, they can actually, if they don't remember the title of the show, they can just tell me the season and the episode number, and I could easily find it for them as of what they were referencing to. Tonight's show is going to be kind of interesting. I have a couple of interesting fetishes to talk about tonight. And actually, what else I was going to say? And I'm also going to be doing the Dear Mistress column, where I've been getting tons of emails from anonymous people or people who listen to the show that don't want to or don't have the balls to call into my show and speak to me live on air. So I do the Dear Mistress column, and some of the emails are hilarious. Some of them are just fucking stupid. And some of them are just like, I wonder what these people are actually doing when they're typing this email. Because some of them are pretty interesting. Then I get ones that tell me their whole life story in like a big novel, and then they finally get to the question. So it does take up some of Mistress's time, but I guess it's kind of a good thing because, I am the fetish educator, so I guess it's kind of a good thing that people are asking me and not like posting it on the internet, I guess is a good way to put it. So, interesting enough, I was on Twitter this evening, of course, posting that I was going to do my show. And one of my wonderful fans, or one of my followers on Twitter, this fella at Treehorn Taped, which is kind of funny, he loves a form of bondage which involves tape. And he likes to be like, severely taped into a chair, his mouth, almost like a damsel in distress. Like I can almost picture him like laying out like long ways on the ground, wrapped in like all sorts of different bands of tape, while he's like placed on the train tracks and there's a big train coming, and he's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna fucking die while I'm all bound up on this train track, and here comes this big fucking train. So, I mean, if that's the kind of idea, Treehorn, that you're looking for, maybe you could ask some fetish photographer to take some photos of you on a abandoned train track, and then you can have those types of, damsel in distress photos while you're, taped, bound, gagged, and who knows what else you enjoy. But I have to say, I really enjoyed your post about you being bound up in the chair and putting, sorry, I can't get to the phone right now. Very, very, very comical, I have to say. Now, the question is, who put you in that predicament? You must have somebody you play with. Otherwise, there are people that do self-bondage, but I don't know how he would wrap this tape around himself unless he was pretty damn good with his feet and legs. Like one time on Tosh O a couple of years ago, there was this woman on there who was like an amputee, and she was actually making peanut butter and jelly and potato salad with her feet. So, I don't know. I guess I have wishful thinking. Maybe I'm thinking this fella from Twitter, one of my fans and followers, is using his feet to put on fetish and bondage tape. If you're listening to the show, I hope you're laughing, because this is pretty funny. This is like the thought that I had about your tweet to me on Twitter. So I want to thank you. That like made my week. Like, honestly, usually on Twitter I get like, kinds of wacky tweets from like, submissives wanting to be like, blackmailed or outed. And, I would normally love to do that, but not for free. I mean, come on, everybody's got to make a living. So, really, put some thought into it if you want to get my attention or get in my good graces, you little bitches. Because I'm very hard to please, let me tell you. When it comes to my style of BDSM, I could be very strict. And it takes a lot for me to look in your general direction if you want to be my submissive. You have to meet every quality that I ask for. And if you can't, dismiss before you eat, or as Gandalf from Lord of the Rings says when he puts his staff into the ground and say, "Thou shalt not pass." So I am a no-go when it comes to shit like that. So, look, I don't know. It's kind of funny, I guess. So, some of the fetishes that we're going to be talking about tonight is kind of a derivative of last week when I got the email from that couple that are in their 20s and they've been together 6 years, and recently one of them has had a fetish for playing, the girlfriend has a fetish for playing with the guy's belly button. Now, after thoroughly reading the email that they had sent, which I'll read to you in a few minutes, but let me just finish my little segment. They wanted to know ways to play with the belly button, and if I thought it was odd that they had some sort of, it seems the girlfriend has a heavy-duty belly button navel fetishism, which is called navel fetishism, which is a belly button fetish. Anything to do with belly buttons, whether you're licking them, playing with your fingers. Some people even, I've heard of fucking other people's belly buttons, innies with dildos. You name it. I think there's like, all kinds of things you can do, and you have to get kind of creative. Now, asking me what I would do, well, I don't know, because honestly, that's not one of my fetishes, and to be quite honest, I think people's belly buttons are disgusting because one, people sweat. There's all kinds of, some people have belly button, junk in there, like toe jam. They have belly button jam. There's all sorts of, ew. And it's just, no, that personally is not one of my fetishes. It's kind of cool that you would ask me about it, but I really, don't know what to say about it. All I could tell you is that it is considered navel fetishism. And you can even Google it on the internet and look it up, and I believe your girlfriend strongly has a navel fetishism type behavior, as well as a fetish. You, on the other hand, you have an outie, so it sounds like, I don't know, like the fact that, outies to me are kind of like it's almost like, like a guy in particular, like you have a small dick. Well, you gotta look down and see your belly button over the size of your penis, and you have some serious problems. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, to me, like I said, it's not one of my personal things. It is kind of interesting to talk about, but it is considered, again, navel fetishism. So look up navel fetishism, and then you'll get an idea of, what it's all about and how you and your girl can pleasure each other with your belly buttons, because that's something that's out of my hands, and I don't really know what to say about it, honestly. It's not something that I've had a submissive pay me $200 for a pro dom session and say, "Mistress, I want you to fuck my belly button with your strap on." It's not something that people genuinely ask for. Usually they want to be spanked or whipped or, dressed like a female for degradation. I've actually smacked guys in the face, spit on them, made them jerk off on my boots and lick up every drop of their semen, and fucking polish and wash my shoes afterwards. Really even more degrading. Things of that nature. Ball busting, ball kicking, ball trampling, using a submissive as a human footstool or human ashtray, walking sluts out in public on leashes in broad daylight. I actually did that in Las Vegas many years ago with Slave Paula, and I actually stood in the middle of the street dressed in a leather catsuit with a corset on, directing traffic, while he was like naked wearing a gold thong and platform high heel shoes in the street, which was kind of funny. I did that right in the middle of Las Vegas somewhere. Like, I forget exactly where, but it was when I went to like AVN or something. I was taking my bitch out for a walk in public and causing all kinds of traffic jams and whatnot in Vegas at the time. And but quite interesting enough, when I was at AVN, I met a couple of individuals that actually approached me about their nylon and pantyhose fetish. So for those of you who really don't know what it is, I'm going to kind of explain it a little bit. So basically, it's people who have a pantyhose fetish, right? They typically become sexually aroused through wearing pantyhose, watching other people wear pantyhose, or both. They may also feel aroused by watching others put on or take off pantyhose, using pantyhose as bondage restraints and gags, which I actually have done, so I'll raise my hand to that one. Or being forced to wear pantyhose, which I've actually done to males who wanted to be degraded and possibly sissified or try to cross-dress for humiliation purposes. Not that they were cross-dressing to go out to be slutty whores and, suck men off in public. Some of them would actually come to me for the humiliation aspect of me stripping away their manhood, like forcing them to take off their man clothes, and I would treat them like as such. I'd make them put it in a black garbage bag. Then I would tie a knot in it and hoist it over my shoulder, and I would put it in another room so they had no access to their clothes. So basically they were stark raving naked, which a submissive actually should be in front of a dominant, number one. Number two, and a slave. A slave and a submissive should always be naked. Well, in front of me anyway, because I believe in clothed female, naked male. So I can look at you and be like, yeah, you're fucking pathetic, but you're a good slave and you're going to serve me naked and I'm going to watch you and humiliate you and degrade you while you're doing it. Because that's the fetish that they had. They're humiliation junkies. So it's, they get off on women degrading them, whether it's verbal or, verbal humiliation or body shaming them, making them feel like a piece of garbage, they're lowly, low individuals. There are guys who get off on that, believe it or not. I mean, look, as I've been a dominatrix for 33 years, I have seen and done it all, put it that way. So, there's nothing I haven't done, except for the belly button fetish. So that's the only thing I haven't really gotten into, but I, have a whole array of things that I like to do. And, my one major thing that I love to do is humiliate men, and actually women also, depending on who it is and where it is and when it's happening. I'm very sharp and I'm witty and I always have really good comebacks. So watch, so if you want humiliation at its finest, you come to me on a given day. I have a couple of submissives that I humiliate online, and they've been humiliated by me for the past, 13 years or so, and they really enjoy. They say to me, I've tried other women and they just can't do it the same as you. So I find myself coming back to you again over and over again, which is kind of a good thing because it shows you that I'm pretty astute in my humiliation craft. So I guess, depending on what your level of degradation is, I can definitely dish out some really fucking hilarious shit. Like, for instance, this one guy that chronically calls, man, and his name is Bitch Boy, mind you. Okay, so his name should just say it all, Bitch Boy. This fucking guy, I've been dominating him online for probably the past 13 years or so, and he's gone and come back several times, and recently, within the past couple of weeks, he came back to me. And he was saying things like, oh, I remember when you used to humiliate me and my brown ass and make me dance around like a monkey and wear garbage bags and I would make him wear make a pair of panties or pants out of a plastic garbage bag. I would give him directions on webcam, and he would have to have all the supplies. And believe me, he was fun. He basically did whatever the fuck I told him. I mean, if I told him to I think I told him once to go in his bathroom and shove like a toothbrush up his asshole or something just to see if he would actually do it, and he actually did. So I said, okay. So I had to like use my words like wisely with this guy. You know, of course I don't want to cause any like pain or harm. I mean, unless you're a fucking pain slut and you're asking to be like fucking, like to do some self-mutilation at my discretion on webcam, then, you know, maybe I could help you out with that too. You know, and as long as I get to like, you know, humiliate, the keeping the factor of being humiliated and being forced to do something because mistress told you to do it, because they're submissive and they want to please me, so they're going to do whatever I tell them, right? So, I used to have this guy go on webcam and wear garbage bags, and then I would make him like sing and jump up and down and sing Old MacDonald Had a Farm, but hold on, he had to change it to Old Mistress Candy Had a Farm, and E-I-E-I-O. And then when it was time for the animals, I made him like snort like a pig, squeal like a pig, bark like a dog. Like, I even added in some like other animals just to make him fucking, you know, like just. And honestly, I would be laughing so hard. He was pretty fucking funny, I will say. And the funny part of the story is, you know, some of these fellas, when they're on webcam, of course, they want to jerk off. So I humiliate them for a good like half hour before I even allow them to touch themselves. And then when I allow them to like, you know, jerk off, because they're, you know, doing a webcam session basically, I make them like, they're like, oh, I want to try cock and ball torture, so here it comes. Ready? I tell them to get shoelaces, clothespins, fly swatters, spatulas, like all kinds of stuff that they have like in their house. If they don't have it, they are given a list by mistress, and I would give them a list of like items that they would need for the next webcam session, because I would always have like something like very humiliating planned. So I had this one guy, the same guy. No, this is a different guy. I gave him a cooking with mistress task, and I gave him the grocery list the day before. And then the very next morning, he would message me on Messenger and say, okay, I'm ready to do, you know, webcam today, blah, blah, blah. I'm ready to serve. This is what he would say. And this fella lived in Italy. So the other guy that I was just talking about, Bitch Boy, he lives in Chicago. And this other guy, I forget his name, but he lives in Italy. And anyway, he was my on and off online submissive for like 20 years. Okay, so this guy, or even before that, like probably like 15 years, maybe 16 years. And he goes to the store. I have him get 2 eggs, or a dozen eggs. Oatmeal that you have to cook in a pot, so it's not instant oatmeal. It's the one that like takes a little while, like old-fashioned oatmeal. And I have him get like butter and honey and what was it? And maybe like a piece of fruit to put in the oatmeal, okay? So he basically has to make the breakfast in the kitchen on webcam. So he has the camera facing him. I'm watching him as he's like naked in his house making breakfast naked. So he's on webcam and he's like, okay, mistress, I'm going to do the task that you gave me, and I want you to watch to make sure I do it correctly. So I said, okay. So the task is, while he's making breakfast, he is to watch some porn, right? And porn that he's not into. Like, this guy was completely straight, so I would make him watch gay porn while he was making breakfast, okay? And then like for the first like 5 minutes, he has to watch gay porn. For the next 5 minutes, he gets to watch heterosexual porn, male and female. And I can see while he's making breakfast, he's getting like erection, okay? This is the whole point of the task. So he is to make 2 eggs scrambled in a bowl, but put them to the side. He is to boil the oatmeal or whatever. So now that the oatmeal's done, and now during this time of the oatmeal cooking, he is like slowly masturbating while he's trying to make scrambled eggs on very low heat. So the eggs take, on low heat can take anywhere from 5 to like 6 minutes if they're covered or not, right? So, but they weren't covered because I wanted them. So the oatmeal is just about done. He goes and has to chop up the apples, but he can't because he's jerking off. So he puts it in like a food chopper thing or whatever. And then scoops it out with one hand while he's still jerking off and watching porn and making breakfast, okay, while I'm watching him. And I'm just laughing like hysterically at him. And he's getting off at the fact of me watching him while he's doing this humiliating task for me. And he's trying not to burn himself in the process because he's cooking naked next to a gas stove, okay? So, wait, this is like hilarious. So, mind you, he's paying me like $3 a minute to do this webcam with him. So he's like, like at the time that was my going rate. And, so he, as he's cooking and I'm like laughing and I'm like, oh, watch out, burn your dick on the stove. And like, I was like saying all kinds of things. I'm like, oh, that would really suck if you spilt a hot bowl of oatmeal right on your cock and balls. Like, stuff like that. So he's like, so basically he's like, the oatmeal's done. It's cooling. So he says to me, I said, okay, now I want you to watch a close-up of a porn of a guy fucking a woman's pussy while you're jerking off cooking eggs, right? So he starts like, continues, it takes a little bit. So he gets to the point where he feels like he's going to come and he's like begging me to come. And I said, well, I don't know. So he was like, I had him kind of like edging himself for a while to kind of like, give him a little bit of blue balls, almost like a half ruined orgasm, right? So, and the eggs are done, so he puts the eggs on a plate. I tell him while he's jerking off slightly to bring all the food to the counter to where I can see it in front of the computer. And then so I said, okay, now you can come, but you have to come in your oatmeal and on your eggs. And he looked at me, I said, and you're going to eat it afterwards. And he goes, oh, I was like, well, then you can't come. Then you're going to have blue balls for the rest of the day. And I was laughing so hard. So he actually came on his oatmeal and his eggs, and he ate the whole fucking thing. So these are things that I've done. Like, so these people have all these different types of fetishes in one. First of all, they love to be watched jerking off. So that's part of like exhibitionism. They also like being watched as well, like for non-sexual stuff. So they like to watch other people also, so they're voyeuristic. But the funny part is he's basically a naked exhibitionist who cooks naked in his kitchen while Mistress humiliates him. And basically he said that was the best fucking task he has ever had in his life from any mistress anywhere. So, of course, me and my deviant mind would like think of some shit like that, right? So, but that was the one thing. But he also had a pantyhose fetish. So I would have him go on webcam and I make him put on women's pantyhose. But before I made him put them on, I would make him like pull them out, stretch them out, put them on his face, like put him on like he's going to rob a bank. Because I really wanted him to kind of indulge in his fetish and really kind of get, all aspects of it. So he says that every time after I did this with him, he would go into the store and look at packages of pantyhose and start to get erections. So, I mean, I guess it kind of has that effect on some. And so basically it develops, they say, during childhood, and it's more common among men than women. And some people who have the pantyhose fetish, like the Italian guy, they have a preference for different types of pantyhose. Like they want like sheer or black or nude, or they want silky. They want ones made out of nylon. There's all different types of like materials. So they can, like, some people are very picky with their pantyhose. They like to also, like, if a guy has a pantyhose fetish and likes looking at women wearing pantyhose or thigh highs, they may have a specific look that they're looking for, like a skirt, or the typical one is the schoolgirl with the thigh highs. Types of open-toe shoes for those guys that have the open-toe shoe and nylon fetish, or high heel fetish. All these kind of different shoe, pantyhose, and foot fetishes kind of all fit in the same category of like foot, shoe, pantyhose type stuff. So I consider them all feet type related stuff. Some people get aroused just by the silky texture of it. Like, I had a guy once, another guy, that used to call into my phone sex business, and he used to be wearing pantyhose while he was talking to me on the phone. And while we were just having regular conversation, he would just burst out, "Oh, mistress, I'm actually stroking my cock while we're having a regular conversation. And I'm letting the silkiness of the pantyhose kind of do its thing." And then he's like, "Oh," and then I look down, and of course I have a big pre-cum leak. I have a puddle in my pantyhose. And I said, "Really?" I said, "You should take a picture and send it to me." So he did, and I would make fun of him about it. I said, "Wow," I said, "You must really be secretly wanting to be a woman." That's what I said to him. I said, "You probably have dreams of sucking cock, and you don't even think about it now, but eventually it'll come to you." And he's like, "No, I just really like the feel of the texture on my clothes, on my skin. It's arousing to me." He's like, he explained it to me almost like a woman's silky vagina. That's what he was like telling me. I was like, "Really?" I'm like, "I've never heard that, but okay, whatever. If that's what it feels like for you, then I guess you don't have to have a girlfriend. You can just jerk off in pantyhose for the rest of your life." That's what I told him. So it was kind of funny. And then, there are people that just like knee highs. A lot of older women wear those, like grannies and stuff. But, hey, if you have a knee-high fetish, more power to you. And if you, get off on it, that's even better. I've done cock and bull torture by taking pantyhose or thigh highs or knee highs. And I would tie up guys' cock and balls with them and kind of torture them a little bit, kind of dangle them like marionettes while they were laying down and stuff. Then I would take clothespins and put them on the scrotum sack. And then I would walk around kind of holding the pantyhose in an upright position while they have clothespins on and the head of the cock is strung up to like a puppet. And then I would walk around in a circle and take my crop whip and smack each fucking clothespin off and kind of torture them a little bit. They wanted cock and ball torture. They got it. End of story. So a lot of people want to know what the difference between a pantyhose fetish and a foot fetish, okay? So, there is overlapping, like I was saying before, the pantyhose, foot, and nylon fetish are all, and foot and shoe are basically the same type. I categorize them as feet. So, they do overlap, but the foot fetish and cross-dressing fetish are still different they're all different sexual fetishes. I have this one guy years ago who was a straight cross-dresser that loved women's feet. And he got off by dressing like a woman and jerking off looking at women's feet. That was his thing. Was he a cross-dresser that wanted to be with guys? No. He was what you call Tootsie, Tootsie, Mrs. Doubtfire, he's a straight guy that just wore a disguise, wasn't trying to be a transsexual and change his gender by going on hormones and doing all that stuff and wanting to be with the same sex. So, they get off on women's feet fetish. A woman, walking by wearing sandals per se. Or you have a woman wearing high heel open toe shoes with her toenails painted. Some guys go fucking wild over that. Believe it or not, Mistress has a lot of guy friends. And a lot of my guy friends, some are vanilla, some are kind of into kink, some know about a lot of different stuff. Some of them ask me, a lot of them ask me stuff when they're going out with women. They want to know what they can do to spice stuff up or whatever. Or, she's submissive. What do I do with this person? So I'm always giving advice to either it's a vanilla friend or somebody who's whatever. And I always hear the same thing, oh, this guy has a foot fetish and, he really wants to suck my toes, but I don't know if I should let them. And I'm like, why not? I'm like, try it. If you don't like it, then don't do it. But, I'm all advocating, of course, for people to touch people's feet and stuff, because that's, very, skin is an organ. So think about it. Your whole body is an organ, and you have organs with organs inside. So skin likes to be aroused also. So think about it. It's an arousal when pantyhose and people's feet and shoes and things of that nature. It's more of like a sensory type fetish, in my humble honest opinion. Guys just get off on that comforting feeling of looking at women in high heel shoes. When they're delving around with pantyhose too, it's kind of like the same thing. They're delving with the pantyhose fetish, and they could be wearing the pantyhose themselves, or they could be looking at it on women, but they're getting off on it somehow, whether it's mental or physical. Mistress's new word of the week is mentacle. It's mental and physical. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Mentacle. Oh, so, I, for one, for being a dominatrix for many, many years, have had all sorts of guys with all different types of fetishes. And I had this one guy once, this black guy, who was a foot slave. And oh my God, did he spoil Mistress. All he wanted was pictures of my feet, that he would, send me money so I could go get pedicure. I used to get a French pedicure all the time. It looked very hot, I have to say. And I would take pictures of my feet like regular, with no shoes and socks on. Then I had him buy me all these expensive shoes and open toe shoes and all kinds of marabou bed slippers, you name it, I had them. God only knows. I think they're one of my storage units. But anyway, so all kinds of stuff. And all he wanted was pictures of my feet. He really wasn't interested in my body, or he said I was very gorgeous, of course. And at the time, I think I was 300 pounds. And he was like, oh, you're gorgeous. He's like, you're a big, thick woman. You're curvy. He goes, and you got the most beautiful feet I have ever seen in my life. So he basically spoiled me rotten by buying me shoes and pedicures. And just because he needed to worship my feet. Basically, the guy was jerking off to my feet pictures. That's how he was getting off. So, I mean, I had no physical contact with the fella. He did a phone call here and there, maybe twice a week or whatever. And that was that. But he spoiled me rotten, all just to get pictures of my feet to just, jerk off to. So, whatever. I don't know. To each his own, as they would say. And then so the pantyhose fetish versus the foot fetish, right? Now, a foot fetish is where feet are a strong trigger for arousal. And this is what I was talking about, guys. You ever see guys at shopping malls? I mean, maybe it's me who noticed it, because I know people have fetishes, and whether they tell me or not, I can just read people. I'm pretty good at seeing who's kinky and who's not. And just by their vibe, and without me even telling them I'm a dom, I can just pick up on it. That must be part of my mistress radar over here, right? So I've been to shopping malls where I myself have had sandals on with nice painted feet, toenails, and I would see guys staring at my feet. One time I think my sandal fell off at the mall or something, and this guy runs over to get Cinderella, but he was just whatever. And he kind of looked in the inside of my sandal and then looked at my foot. I think he had a foot fetish, and he just didn't want to tell me. So I said, oh, can I have my shoe back? Thank you. And he was like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Here. I kind of dazed out for a minute. No, he did not. He was fantasizing about my feet and his shoes and the shoes. And he just didn't want to say anything to me about it. So, I've had fellas where I've been to conventions and I'd be walking around in leather boots all day long. And I would go into the dungeon and there would be a foot boy in there. And their job was to basically massage my feet and give me, TLC, come from walking around for hours in high heel shoes. So I would stop in, and this one guy had an intense foot fetish, and he was telling me that's why he was working in the dungeon. I think myself and another mistress hired him and two other fellas for, just for our purposes, and women that went into the dungeon to get their feet rubbed. by, you know, guys who have extreme foot fetishes. So these guys were probably like coming in their pants all day long. Like, I can only imagine. And they enjoy kissing, touching, licking, sucking, or massaging a person's feet. Now, kind of an interesting topic here. I myself have a foot fetish. So the guy that I'm with now, which I'm sure he's listening to the show because he says he listens every time. So if you're listening, you know what I'm about to get into. So sometimes, like, when we're hanging out or whatever, and, you know, we have sex and whatnot, and then after that, I'm like, So I kind of, like, you know, will go by his feet, and, you know, I, like, suck on his toes and kind of nibble on his feet and, like, look at his feet and, you know, kissing, touching. These are all part of my personal foot fetish. Now, for one, you have to have pretty attractive feet for me to even go near your feet, because if your feet look like you can swoop out of the sky and catch your dinner from a lake, I am definitely not putting my mouth or hands anywhere near your fucking feet, okay? I'm not saying my guy has that. Believe me, my guy has beautiful feet. And so, you know, and it's kind of interesting. There's people with a foot fetish that enjoy getting, you know, having a foot in their mouth, which I don't, smelling people's feet, or being stepped on. Okay, now I've stepped on people. I've done face trample and all kinds of bowl trampling and barefoot with heels on, shoes on, you name it, I've done it. So, you know, but with my own personal foot fetish, you know, of course, I love, like, licking my guy's feet and sucking his toes and, and, trying to get him not to become ticklish on his feet, because he's pretty ticklish, and sometimes I touch him in a certain way and he's like, like, you know. So I think the more I touch his feet, I try to get him accustomed to it so he becomes less ticklish, is a good way to put it. So kind of interesting. We're talking about the foot fetish, and I of course have one, but I don't have a foot fetish for guys' feet in, like, shoes or sandals or anything like that. That's not what I just like. Really beautiful feet. And if you have beautiful feet that don't have calluses, and you have nice, you know, manicured nails, and your feet, like, are, you know, look good to me, then I'll put them in my mouth. But if they don't, my mouth is never going to touch your feet. Trust me when I tell you that. So, you know, and then, of course, you know, nylons, right? Like, certain pantyhose is made out of silk. Most of them are made out of a nylon material, or caterpillar material, caterpillar silk. But majority, it's all nylon, polyester type stuff now. They create smooth and shapely and appealing look to the foot. So for people with a foot fetish, if you have gross feet and you want to try to hide your feet, then you should wear pantyhose, because it kind of, like, smooths and contours your feet. Unless you have really scaly, dry feet to where your calluses are ripping the pantyhose, then you shouldn't be wearing pantyhose. So that's kind of like, you know. Now, one time I went someplace and I had really sweaty pantyhose and fishnet stockings on, and I took them off and threw them on the face of a foot slave at Exotica, and he was in heaven, this guy, okay? And he actually asked me if he could buy them from me, because he was like, they have, like, your sweaty smell in them. He goes, I would love to take these home and, like, use them. I said, listen, if you want to buy them, they're yours. You just pay me $50 and the pantyhose are yours. So, like, $6 pantyhose that I wore and sweated up my feet in them, and really was, like, gross. Like, at the time, they were in, like, leather boots on my feet, and it smelled like Fritos corn chips. So, honestly, I was glad to get rid of them, and I made $50 in the process. Why not? There are guys that will buy sweaty, dirty old socks, sweaty, disgusting, dirty, really broken and worn shoes that are, like, ready for the garbage. There are guys that will buy them and, like, jerk off in them, on them, whatever. It's just, you know, people have really bizarre, like, foot fetishes for shoes and all different types of, my foot fetish doesn't get like that. I'm not, like, masturbating to the sight of my boyfriend's feet. I just like to kind of taste them when he's here. taste them, lick them, nibble them, kind of, like trying to get him like with a little sensory type stuff, like, so he gets used to me playing with his feet, kind of funny. So if you're listening or listening to the show, I'm sure when I talk to you after the show, you're going to say something to me about the feet. Oh, but I will say this. I have to change the subject real quick. I want to thank Spunk Lube for continuing to sponsor the show. They sponsored the network for a long time. They still sponsor the network. But I just want to say I'm so excited, and I want to thank you for sending me some lube in the mail, because I'm going to be using a lot of it with my new boyfriend, of course. And I'm kind of running low, which is good. And plus, when I go out and stuff and I talk about the show, if you ever see Mistress in public, ask me for some Spunk Lube. I usually keep some samples in my pocketbook to give out to people when I'm out in town and stuff. So, that's what I do. I'm promoting them because they, help me, which is kind of cool. So, who doesn't like fucking lube, man? It's like, without it, there'd be a lot of fucking dry humping going around, and it would not be good. But I will say this. I have actually, and this is something I usually don't talk about on air, my personal stuff, but I have to say, Mistress has a very sore pussy. My boyfriend has been really, how shall I say, really taking care of Mistress, so to speak. I'm very satisfied, but I have a fucking sore pussy to boot. So, I really guess I really can't complain about it. But I just figured I would share that. Like, some of my fans are probably like, oh, I can't believe she just said that. So, the next couple of months, Exotica is returning, I think, to Miami and Chicago. I will only be at the Edison one in November, which is November 3rd to the 5th. Make sure you get your tickets ahead of time. Ladies are always free on Fridays. And, it's kind of cool, actually. It's really cool. If you've never gone, you definitely want to go. There's all different vendors. Now they, sell marijuana there and shit. It's great. Honestly, I smoked so much weed at this last one with my friend Chris that came with me. I was him and I were, dying. We smoked so much weed. We ate tons of edibles, and oh my God, it was fantastic. Walking around the convention, I was interviewing people. I did the show from the convention. And, of course, I'll be doing my show again this year there. So make sure, my good buddy Rita Daniels will be back at Exotica, and I can't wait to see her. And, she's going to be on the network soon at some point, I hope. And I know she's still kind of healing from her multiple level cervical fusion surgery and thoracic surgery. So I hope, you're doing well. I miss you and love you. I saw that you were on Instagram the other day. Welcome back. I see you're a little active on Twitter. So yeah, you can follow Mistress on Twitter at MistressC69, at BDSM Alive Radio Network, and at The Whip Appeal Show on Twitter. Instagram, I'm at The Real MistressCandy69, and The Whip Appeal Show. And one more thing before I go tonight, actually. Tomorrow is a very interesting day. Tomorrow is April 14th, 2023. And it marks the 13th year anniversary of Peter Steele from Typo Negative's death. So, I've been listening to a lot of Typo Negative lately. Actually, I noticed some of the guys from Typo, Johnny Kelly and Ken Hickey, formed another band called I Am Band. And they're with some of the members from Crowbar, if I'm not mistaken. And I think June 2nd, their single comes out. So give them a check out. They're all over. And the single comes out from corpsepaintrecords.com. So you might want to go there and just check them out or whatever. And, but yeah, tomorrow was 13 years that Pete Steele left this earth. And he is gone but never forgotten. And so I'm actually planning to take my guy to the cemetery this weekend, because he's actually kind of buried kind of local to here in a public cemetery. So we were kind of hoping to go to the gravesite and go, pay respects to the Green Man. So So that's pretty awesome. And what else? And that's about it. Mistress has just been really busy with work and, doing all kinds of things, and still doing my show and answering emails. And, next week I think I'm going to do a lot of, different, Dear Mistress column. I'm going to pick, 6 emails from next week's batch, and I'm going to decide the most raunchiest ones for the show. So keep sending the emails. You can email me at BDSMALIVERADIO. So it's BDSMAliveradio@gmail.com, or you can personally email me at MistressCandy1969 @gmail.com. And, continue to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And, but yeah, Mistress is boiling. My studio tonight is pretty hot because it's pretty hot here on Long Island, and I really need to go outside. I have a fan on, but it's quite boiling in here. And actually, it's much cooler out in the back of the house. So I think I'm going to say goodnight for tonight because I'm getting hot in here, and not in a good way either. So I think I'm going to say goodnight. But thanks for listening. I hope I hope you enjoyed listening to my show. I hope that what was I going to say? I hope you have a beautiful weekend, and stay kinky, my friends. And we are live next week, same bat time and same bat channel. And I want to thank Blitzkid for allowing me to use your song She Dominates for my radio show for the past 6 years. And I want to thank Spunk Lube, and that's about it. Well, have a good night, everybody, and thanks for listening. You're listening to the Whip Appeal Show, hosted by MistressCandy69 from the BDSM Alive Radio Network.